Here we go. So, Avatar Meherabad Ki Jai. We'll have a moment of silence and then we'll hear stories from longtime Baba lovers. Jai Baba. All right. So, Jack's hand is first. Okay, I think that's how we'll do this. We'll have you raise hands. We have. I just wanted to say I researched this time frame a little bit and found really one book only, the Letters of Love, um, Jane Haynes' book of Mayor Baba that even talks about this period of time because Lord Mayor ends at 69. And there was some beautiful description of how the Mandali and also the folks at Meher Center were kind of getting ready for the children, the newcomers. It was well. Here's one little bit from Mani. It's a letter to Jane. Jane, dear, a little note hitchhiking in Ronno's newsy letter to Elizabeth to tell you that your letter filled my heart with joy and pride for the way you have stepped forward to help relieve the burden off of dear Ellikit's shoulders. It was Baba's wish that you should do so. When Baba wishes you to do something, he knows it can be done, and sooner or later must be done, and with his dear help, it will be done. Your circular was shared by all the Meherazad family, and we will be there in heart for the reopening of the center, refreshed and glowing. His beautiful center will be ready to receive Baba's many children who come there to receive his love. All thanks to the giver of all, Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Much love to you and our special Meher House family from your sisters at Meherazad. There was lots of wonderful little correspondence like this between them. So without further ado, let's start with Jack Burke.
I'll just cut it to the quick here. It was November in 1972, which was about 7 or 8 months after my initial Baba experience back in the end of March. And I just woke up one Sunday morning and said, I'm going to India. And I went down to the travel agency and got myself a ticket. There's a story in that too. And here I am leaving Vilu's villa for the first time and going to Meherabad itself. I had showed up at Amanagar at Adi's office, and I'd walked in the door there, and he was sitting facing the window at his desk, dressed in his usual uniform of black pants and rolled up white shirt sleeves. And he looked at me and said, "Who are you?" And I said, "Jack Burke." And immediately picked up the phone. Oh yeah. Then he said, "Do you have a reservation?" And I looked at him. I said, "What are you talking about?" And he just turned around, picked up the phone, and dialed a number. And when it picked up, it said, "Sarosh, we got another one." I don't know what he was talking about. So anyway, in about 5 minutes, the Rose showed up and piled me in the car. Went to Vilo's villa and sitting there amongst other people whom I didn't know, obviously. And what I remember most was I was sitting on the couch along with two other people, and Sarosh walked into the room and started talking. And then all of a sudden, Vilu came over and said, "You come with me." And she took me into the middle bedroom. There was another bed there, I think, and with the mosquito nets were up. And she said, "You go rest." And I did. I just took off my pants and shirt at the time and jumped in the bed. Well, it was 3 days later. I actually was knocked out for 3 solid days. And I was given that knowledge when I walked in, when I got up and didn't think of anything. I thought, here I am, and what's this all about? And went to the gazebo area there, and a woman named Marion Hodgkins was in there. And she looked at me. She said, how are you feeling? I said, well, I'm fine. What's going on? She said, well, you've been out for 3 days. I said, what? You know? So anyway, I went in and got that. So anyway, here we are coming over to Meherabad itself. I don't remember anything about the trip between Vilus and all I remember from here on in is the fact that it was my turn to go to the Samadhi, and I put my foot on the threshold. I stood on the threshold, and my whole being dissolved, literally. And I just cried and sobbed and cried and sobbed and cried and sobbed. No words could explain it. And I stepped back and sat down one of the benches, gathering myself. And I got up and I left. And later on, I described this situation and to people who were there, and they just looked at me and said, "We don't know what you're talking about." So Baba had that way of flanking everybody, and it was just me. It was just him and I, and nobody else. And and I found out from Dick Anthony a year later when I ran into him when I was out in Berkeley. And he said the same thing happened to me. I rolled around the court there, and nobody saw me doing it. Yeah, Baba has that way of doing things. So I went back into the Samadhi later when we stayed at Meherabad for an hour or two or three, whatever it was. I think we had lunch. No, they didn't have lunch at the PC. The PC wasn't even built. And yeah, that's. I mean, I can't talk about it anymore because there's nothing to talk about. So thank you for listening. So no, that's later. So that's why I'll leave it go at that. There's a couple of hours I could talk about it. So thank you very much for listening.
Well, Jack, maybe we will come back around each of those little. I want to hear all those little stories about how it all happened. So maybe we'll have to come back to
Sure,
you somehow.
I'll be here till noon.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, we have time. There's time on our schedule. So okay, let's see how we do. Thanks, Jack.
Sure.
And Rosalie's next.
Don't worry, be happy. I wanted to share something that Narina said. we, his Eastern and Western disciples, those who have lived for him for many years and those who have surrendered the same life to him since only a few years, all join as one devoted pack of soul hounds to serve his work, to serve Baba's work. If I learned anything in my experience of going there and meeting Baba's Mandali and being able to bow at his tomb, I could only say I remember stories of people they're waiting for the pilgrimage, and I used to think as a Catholic, being raised Catholic, I'd love to go to see where Baba was born and suffered, and that's what it's all about, going there. And I would say, I was kind of taken aback by the 70 thing. People went in the 70s. It's the first 20 years because Mara was still there. And for 20 years. And I did meet Mara, and it was beyond good fortune to meet the person that loved Baba as he should be loved, and that is Mayor Baba's words. And to be able to experience being around Mara, and is to think the purest soul in the universe, and she's still there. We get to meet her. We get to hear her experience because she experienced those early days when there were just a few, she and her mother at Meherabad with Baba, just precious what she could share. So anyway, that's my contribution. I would encourage, don't think whatever you're sharing is not right. This is a Baba meeting. We're just sharing Baba. And what was it about going to India at all, but was coming closer to Baba? And even if someone never goes to India, it doesn't really matter because Baba does everything. We don't do anything. Man can only do what I and him enact. That's Baba's words. Anyway, share on. I'm waiting to hear these shares. Jai Baba.
Rosalie, tell about how you went 7 times. And what is that okay? And the tickets.
How I went 7 times?
Yeah.
Well, on a very slight budget.
Yeah.
So I considered it total grace to get there. And my last time to get there was number 7. No, that was number 6. I won. It was my 5th time. Mara was still there. It was my 5th time to go there. I always wanted to get back to see Mara. I always wanted to get back. And I know someday I'd see the full moon in the sky, at night. And I think, I got to get back. I don't know how long she's going to be around. And, but everything, it's a pilgrimage when you go. I've had 2 of my 7 pilgrimages that were very painful. Because just as now, Baba's bringing up stuff, don't feel down by what I bring up in you. It all has to come up. He's manifesting, So for me, it was, I would say, just so grateful for the beginning of that, because to know, our master is perfect. And he is us. We're nothing but him. We're nothing but him. And that's that's the incredible grace of his coming this time. This is the seventh cycle of 11 ages, actually. That's per Joseph Harb, who is close Mandali. Baba's bringing a huge thing this time. He's bringing us from reason, which has actually gotten us into trouble. It's reason run amok, to intuition. He's bringing balance in the heart. So when any one of these mandali that I would meet and just to know how their life was, how they did nothing but without Baba telling them what to do, or and but I didn't feel they were like that they suffered from it. No, it was a certain purity was brought out. And I'm sure they didn't know what to do when Baba dropped his body, because they were so used to them telling them what to do. But that that first jarring thing when Baba dropped his body was, I mean, I'm sure the Mandali had to recover from that. And in fact, I'm happy that Baba didn't let me go till 1976, because I could still feel Mara's grief. She just didn't like it one bit, not being around Baba physically. Not one shred, And yet she just was sharing his life or his times with her. And she, of any of the Mandali, I didn't feel personality between that person and God. I just thought she only wanted you to love Baba. It was just so clear, and she remembered him all the time. She was like, I could feel it just sitting by her. I could just feel it. And no matter what she was talking about, he'd be talking about making chapatis, but she was focused on Baba, is all I can say to you. And and then I saw the Mandalis is my family, and I didn't get along with everyone in my family. I'm the black sheep. So, I would have occasions uncomfortable, but I was on pilgrimage. I had to just surrender just to get over all those miles to get there, And I would say, because I went all those miles, he graced me to go all those miles so I could be back here, happy back here. That he loved me enough to bring me 7 times there. It's all about Christ in your life and realizing that you have no life but his life. And actually, when he comes, he suffers everything anyone suffers, because we aren't separate. It's the illusion, it's the game. And thank God it's funny, because I remember someone asked, Rick Chapman asked Mara, describe Baba. She said he was a good sport. And I thought, thank God he was a good sport, because I love when he says, love this game and I see me in it, pure joy.
Amen. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we may come back around. Rosalie, thank you. Now we have Viola.
Jay Baba, good to see
Hey,
everyone. In the first year that I got to be in Meherabad and Meherabad, the land was stark and there were huge trees along the road, which was empty all the way down. The place was very, very empty. And what stood out, of course, were Baba's mandali. At Meherabad, Padri and Mansari and Nanak Kher, I believe, I remember, but particularly Padri and Mansari and their presence. The first Duni I went to, I didn't know what a Duni was. How could I? Was during a period where pilgrims were brought 4 nights a week to stay at Meherabad. And I was young, just had turned 20 and probably looked quite a bit younger. And I was definitely a crazy Westerner, which hasn't changed. So I went to the Duni and I could tell what was going on, and Padre described, picked up my stick and dipped it, and had, being young, I was very serious, so the things I wanted to throw in were very huge, you know, like greed and lust and anger, the whole kit. So I had 2 that I picked out and I concentrated, threw it in. And there was Padre, and he said, "Wrong hand." So I got to throw in my other one. I picked up the stick and threw it in. That I particularly remember. I remember very hot afternoons being on the hill. There was little shade. And Mansari would make these fried, I don't know what they were, but they were like plastic. You put them and they fry and bubble up and feed us and give us tea. And one tea time, I remember, people sitting at a long table or bench, and Mansari was sharing with everyone. And she talked about Baba walking and herself following Baba in the same, putting her feet in those same footsteps. And Baba scolding her, you know, you don't do what I do. But also she shared, which was her, she shared that the greatest joy that any of us can have is to love and serve Baba. There's no other joy. And I wasn't one of those people who went to the Samadhi and felt a darn thing. Nothing. I just sit there, and there are little ants running around, and just this stone place most of the time. Anyway, in those days, Mansari, after morning arti, which seemed like it was just at dawn, and there were so few of us, and we stood inside the Samadhi, Mansari would give us flowers. And the whole tomb was covered with a cloth. And our job was to decorate it, and it was very creative. So people would make decorations of all sorts. I remember, I don't know if it's my first or second trip, but Lori Bloom sat in the, it must have been my first, sat in the Samadhi in the afternoons and would draw. And there was so much music and poetry, and everybody, to my eyes, was so beautiful. It was like I had arrived at some other dimension in the world. And as I thank Jack and Rosalie for sharing, I remember going into Adi's office. I had met him first in America and then been on the way to India at Pete Townsend's Oceanic, where Adi was there and Pete was holding court. And anyway, Adi, apparently, this is just a backstory, Adi had asked who's going to India, or Jack had, because Jack was Adi's secretary at the time, and
Mm.
So Adi discovered I was going alone, and that was not done in India for a girl. And as I said, I probably looked 12. And what Jack was wanting was a mule to carry things over for his new house. None of this I put together till much later. This did not please Adi, so he had Jack meet me at every port of call, arrange for my ticket, and meet me and put me on the next conveyance. Poor Jack. So that's how I got there. I'd never flown. In those days on the airlines, you might as well have had little white gloves and little pill caps and just feeded with food and just, you know, made much of. I mean, this was something new for me. And of course, Vilu's villa was quite luxurious. And again, but all of that was very much nothing compared with the presence of Baba's scent and Mara's beauty. So I had planned to go for one day because for once in my life I was happy. I was like, happy, happy, happy. Why do I want to go to India? Miss Crass told me Baba is here. He is not there. He's here. All these young people going to India, cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. So I actually wasn't even that interested in Baba lovers until later when I was so cuckoo. She just figured I better hook up with Baba lovers and suggested I so do. It was Steve Klein who was doing this to get me to India, who he was in the Baba group that I'd met, and Daphne and he just took me under their wing and were so beautiful to me. And he kept saying, "You got to go to India," and I'm thinking, "Why? I'm happy. Why go anywhere? I'm happy." Anyway, I thought, okay, I'll go for one day. I have money. Not a lot, but I have money and I'm happy and I'm not living with my family. I'm free. I can choose what I want. I'm out of college. I dropped out. I'm making my own money. I'll go. So there I was. And it was Baba, Pat Sumner, I believe, who got me to Meherabad and took me around behind, you know, where the blue bus is and then the caravan, that little passageway into the garden. And sort of go, 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 just go. And I come out and there's this garden. It seemed a great expanse to a house beyond with buildings, outbuildings. And it was like a wave, this beautiful wave of love. And I saw the most beautiful woman ever I had seen come out of the house onto the porch. It's like being transfixed. I was transfixed. And then another more beautiful woman came out. You know, I don't remember walking, but I was on the porch and I was very shied by this love. And there was chit chat. There were about 4 or 5 women. One was Lori Agan, who I mentioned, the only person I knew there. And there was a mother and a daughter, and there might have been one other person, only women. And in the conversation, Mara was so gracious, as Rosalie described, like, and gentle, but this amazing power of presence, love. So she said, I don't know everybody's name. And the mother and the daughter introduced themselves, and I was the, you know, other party who hadn't been there before, out of 5 of us, I think. And I could hardly talk. Why? That's what I said. Mara said, Violet, And I tried again. Wyatt. And Mara, Violet? And Lori Bloom, Agan at the time. Now, she didn't have this sense. She had many, many things that I don't. But one thing she didn't have that I, at that time, did was a sensitivity to the environment. And she went, Wyatt, like, Wyatt! I tell you, I just wanted to go underneath the chair and stay there. Like, and Mara looked so surprised. She said, that's a boy's name? And I admitted it, you know, because as a child, Wyatt Earp, you know, all the kids would tease me, and I wanted to be a princess. I'm a princess. Can't you see that? Just look at me. I'm a princess. So Mara said, may I call you Violet? Well, through my mind, as we all have, flashed, as you can't imagine, so quick, the fact that my grandmother, the grande dame of the family, who lived in the pillared white house, who had a cook and servants and people who did the laundry, was named Wyatt. It was Viola who washed the clothes. And I, just through my mind, like, but I said nothing, no facial expression, because one in Mara's presence only wanted to please Mara. Even if Miss Krask hadn't told me, the youngsters going to India, she didn't do that, but that was kind of what I was leaning. The youngsters going to India are mistaking the Mandali for Baba. Do not do that anyone tells you. Don't even listen to anyone. In other words, the Mandali are not Baba, except Mara. And she didn't need to tell me that, because there I was in Mara's presence, and you all know what that is. So I'm sitting there, and I just look at her, and she didn't even miss a beat, and said, or viola. Oh, it sounded so musical to me. And I somehow, Baba graced me with knowing to say, whatever you want, Mara. And she said, I'll call you Viola. And there's story after story after story, but that is, if I could describe Mara's beauty, her high cheekbones, her the beauty of her eyes, the shape of her eyes, even the scar on her forehead. Sometimes it looked like a heart, sometimes it looked like a bird, you know, like a phoenix ascending. Her skin, but her gracefulness and her grace. If anyone wants to see that, I found it only captured for me in a video that Paul Komar made in 1971. It captured that grace, graciousness, that lack of self, that love, that sweetness and purity. Words. Anyway, she was, she became my trip to India. And just the last thing I'll close with is that, as I said, nothing for me at the Samadhi, really. And I was planning to go for one day, and I was asked to be in the play for Mara's birthday, to play Rabia. And how could I say no? And one of my last days, I played it, and Mara said she liked it. And one of my last days, I was sitting in the Samadhi, and I'm not one for spirituality or mysticism. It's just not in my makeup. I don't have it. But three words came, and I knew they weren't my thoughts. And the words were, you are mine. And the last time I saw Mara, I didn't know it was going to be the last time I saw her. As I was leaving, among the things she said, because she was inclusive, not exclusive, she said, "We are his." We, she and I, all of us, she and all of us are his. And it was a perfect reflection of the one thing that wasn't me, that came to me in Baba's Samadhi. And if there's more time later, I'll be happy to share after everyone else. Thank you.
Beautiful, Viola. Thank you. Beautiful. Ooh. And now Tina. Tina has a sharing.
Yeah, I thought I would play this Rubinstein song, Days at Meherabad, and then I'll do my share. I remember days at Meherabad. Wait a minute. I'm going to try to find this right key. I remember days at Meherabad, talking about the man who said he was God. Look at all the flowers swaying on the porch, of guitars playing songs of Go Hair, Katie, and Anne of Us. The stories that they tell are something rare, and when I think of them, I wish I were there. You know they won't be there forever. They're going home, it's now or never. Come and hear the treasure that they share. They are sitting on the porch, holding high the torch of his love. Erich is a man I want you to meet. He welcomes you with open arms and he smiles so sweet. For 30 years he's told the stories about the love, the pain, the glory, and staying up all night watching Baba sleep. He is sitting on the porch, holding high the torch of his love. Sitting on the porch, holding high the torch of his love. Look at all the flowers swaying on the porch, of guitars playing songs for Go Hair, Katie, and Anne of Us. They are sitting on the porch, holding high the torch of his love. Sitting on the porch, holding high the torch of his love. Sitting on the porch, holding high the torch. I remember days at Meherabad, talking about the man who said he was God. So, yeah, my first I hope you enjoyed that, Jay Baba. It brings back fond memories. I went to the Meherabad, Meherabad in the 70s. I'm not sure what year, with the society. And, I really had a hard time because Anna Rosa was not a very positive presence in my life. And she told me that Baba hated actors, and I was an actor. And she said that if I spoke to the Mandali and gave them that information, they'd throw me out on my ass. So I was terrified. And, she did some good. I will say she got kids off drugs, but she had me work as her maid. And I remember once I scrubbed the bathroom floor, and she wasn't happy with my job, and she made me do it 3 or 4 times. And finally the sponge disintegrated, and I threw it out. And she got it out of the garbage and threw it in my face and said, "Don't you know Baba is in that sponge?" So I wasn't very anxious to go to Meherabad with the society. And so they chartered a plane, and somehow, I'm just going to put this auto harp down. Somehow I got the money together to go with them. And when I got on the plane, I was seated between Anna Rosa and Harold Rudd. And he looked over to Anna Rosa and he said, "This is my fiance. We're running away together, and I'm leaving Virginia." I've never met the man. And so Anna Rosa, smoke came out of her ears, and she made me change seats. And anyway, I got to Paris, and she decided she was going to go to the duty-free shop when we changed planes, and she was going to buy a gallon of whiskey for the Mandali. And so she gave it to me to hold. Somehow it slipped out of my fingers, and it crashed on the floor, and I got a whiskey bath. And I just, and then, that made her even angrier at me. So so we got to Bombay, and we got in this bus, and this was the first time I'd had goat burgers. And she was haranguing us all the way from Bombay to Ahmednagar. Don't talk to anyone, don't interact with anyone, you're there for Baba. So these Baba lovers came running out of the Ashoka Hotel and greeted us. And they're like, "Jay Baba, Jay Baba." And we all were just frozen, looking straight ahead, because we had had our orders. And she yelled at them, "What are you, sex maniacs?" And so, anyway, I was very afraid to talk to the Mandali because I didn't want them to ask me what I did for work, and I'd have to admit to them that I was an actor, and they would throw me out of my ass. So these weeks went on. I think we were there 3 weeks. We were there for Amar Tithi, which was a very small affair in the 70s. But one day I came up to the Samadhi And I saw Anna Rosa in an argument with a young man in our group. And then I witnessed her beating him up with her fists and throwing him on the ground and kicking him and just assaulting him. And then she called her assistants to drag him down the hill and throw him in a rickshaw and lock him up in the Ashoka. And so apparently he had said to her that he wanted to stay in India, and she was afraid his parents would sue her because he was not 18. Anyway, so that was my trip to India. But the final episode was when I was leaving. I was so happy because I hadn't interacted with the Mandali at all. They hadn't asked me what I did for work. And so then I was walking toward the bus and I heard this voice calling, "Oh, Miss," and it was Erich. And he said, "I have not talked to you. What, what is your name?" I said, "Tina." And he said, "And what do you do?" The fatal question. And so I said, "Well, I'm sorry to tell you this, Erich, but I'm an actor." And he's like, "Oh, very, very nice. Baba loves actors." And I said, "Yeah, but Anna Rosa told me that Baba hated actors." And he said, he just looked at me and he said, like this, "Every family has a crazy relative." So then I went back to the US and I left the society, and that didn't set well with Anna Rosa, and she called my house in the middle of the night and made threatening calls. And she always got this roommate of mine who was not a Baba lover. And finally the roommate said to me, "Who is this woman who keeps bothering us in the middle of the night?" And I told her her name and address. And the next time Anna Rosa called, my roommate said, "If you call again, I'm sending the police to your house. I have your address." And that was the last time I ever heard from her. So that's my story. And, I'm really glad it all worked out for me to keep the connection with Baba, and to find out he didn't hate actors, and he was just so loving, and that the Mandali were just like the most wonderful grandparents you could ever imagine. So welcoming and warm and sweet and all that. So thanks for listening.
I've heard this story. I could hear it again and again. It's great, Tina. Thank you so much. All right. How about Deborah?
Sorry, that was a thumbs up for Tina.
Oh.
And I didn't come to Meherabad till 2005.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll come back to I've had requests just to loosen up about the dates. So, do you have a story, Deborah? Do you want to tell something now, or maybe later?
Later, please.
All right. Thanks. How about, here's Tony. Tony. Gotta unmute.
It's the first time I'm doing this on my iPhone, so I'm not trying to navigate. If I waited till I went downstairs, it'd be finished. So my first trip to India was for Amar Tithi 1972. I was also in the society, but I had contact in a way with Baba when he dropped his body. When I recognized him a year later, I recognized him. I knew him. So, and when I heard Harry Kenmore, I was blown away by the wisdom, the connection with Baba, the stories of Baba. And it was like, and that he was Baba's. Baba said, "You're my apostle." And it was like, what? It couldn't get more cool than that. And of course, he stressed, and just to mention Anna Rosa, she was there, and she was a little disturbing. But my feeling was, you have to love everyone, and you have to be tolerant, and you pour out enough love, and people will change. And I kind of did that until my mind was almost completely taken over by 8 years later. But at the time, that was my attitude towards this person. Kenmore urged anyone who could to get to Baba's Samadhi. He said, I've never seen Meher Baba. He said, but the presence in his Samadhi is the exact same presence as when I was in his physical company. And so that was like a really, really big incentive. And just to be in the land where he walked and he lived, and to me, it was very much Christ, because that was, when I'm Catholic, I had a rosary connection with Jesus, with Christ. So to be in the land his feet trod upon, going up the hill to the Samadhi was just, we stayed at, no, I didn't stay at Bilu Villa because I was not one of the upper crust of society. See, I was in the overflow crowd that was sent to the Ashoka. Pete Townsend was with us. He was invited by Sarosh at the society in the summer to come for his first visit to India and to stay at my home, Sarosh. So he was there. But I was at the Ashoka, but everything was heavenly. Everything couldn't be more perfect to be here where Baba lived, among his mandali, chatting with his Adi coming in, and Anna Rosa picked on Harold Rudd. For whatever reason, I was aware of that. And he was kind of whiny, and he was had insomnia at the time. And he was saying on the plane, Baba is taking away my sleep. And she, as a sociopath, she couldn't stand weakness of any kind. But I remember at the Ashoka, in the main dining hall, we sat by the windows, but in the inside room, seeing Adi and Harold sharing a bottle of scotch. And I thought, wow, Baba's Manli drinks scotch. The first arrival, I think, I'm not sure if we got to Meherabad before or after Amartiti, but my first arrival there, Alaba came out to greet us, and he had this brown sweater. And Anna Rosa, who was always trying to say cheery things that just didn't sound authentic, but in any event, she said, and you see, Alaba, we've even brought you some cool weather. And Alaba said, you see, you've come with such warmth of Baba's love that Baba had to change the weather to balance it. So then that was out from the veranda. So then we walked over to the veranda one at a time, and there was a line to greet Mani. And Mani, of course, was just dazzling. And this is Baba's sister. Apart from all that, this is Baba's sister. And I finally got up to her, and she gave me this hug. And there was an Irish lady that used to watch me when I was 2 or 3 years old. My mother worked seasonally. And so for 6 months of the year, she put me sat me down at her piano. Her husband was away in a sanatorium for TB. So I got so much love from her and her smiling eyes. And I had also been very much in love with a woman, a first-time experience earlier in that year of going to India. And she had married someone else. But Mani gives me this big hug. And it was as if it was Annie, that early caregiver, Annie Alicia, that girlfriend, and Baba all rolled up into one. It was more love than I could imagine. Of course, meeting Mara was just breathtaking. Was like she was so fragile at that point, and not the Mara that I feel connected with now, but Baba's loss, the loss of Baba's physical presence was still so strong with her.
What
And
year? What year?
This was not January, February of 1972.
Yeah.
And she would talk about Baba's love, and she would start weeping. She would start weeping when she would mention his name. But you felt the immensity of that love. You felt the authenticity of her fragility and the. I mean, I guess I didn't consciously think of it at the time, but now it reminds me of the images that we had growing up of Mary, Jesus's mother, at the crucifixion. You know, like the Pietà that you see, Michelangelo's Pietà. It was that, but even more real. Pietà is very moving. I saw it at the World's Fair, and nothing compared to what Mara was conveying. She took us to see the face, Baba's face on the tree, which was very vivid in those days. We went up to Seclusion. I think on that first trip, Erich took us up Seclusion Hill, which is, again, it was like being in heaven. There was no, I don't mean religious heaven. It was just, and the Samadhi. Kenmore had stressed that you don't ask Baba for anything material. If you want something material, well, the perfect masters, you can go to the perfect masters and ask for any material thing, and they'll give it to you. But at the tomb of the avatar of the age, if you must ask for anything at all, that's the place to ask for something spiritual. And so I had kind of worked out in advance that what I was going to ask for. And I'm walking up the hill in Meherabad the first time from Lower Meherabad, and I'm about halfway up, and I'm about 2/3, and suddenly my feet are going faster and faster, and suddenly I'm running breathlessly, like Baba is so calling. I'm running breathlessly to get to the Samadhi. And I went in and I bowed down, and I suppose I thought you're supposed to ask for something, but I bowed down, and what I asked for, even though I knew Baba said surrender was a gift from the master to man, God, master to man, and then from man to master, rather. Still, I said, love, obedience, and surrender. Love, obedience, and surrender. Love, obedience, and surrender. And I feel so grateful. I feel so grateful for that bit of guidance. And to this day, I have no hesitation. I could not possibly ask Baba, make things turn out this way, or, but give me strength, give spiritual qualities. I need strength. I need clarity. I need compassion, whatever it is to go for. And Baba, as Kenmore used to say, is the infinite ocean of all attributes. So whatever you're lacking, he can give you that. Padre, I'm going on too long. Let me just say about Padre. And Padre taking us on a tour of Lower Meherabad. And his nature was so direct and so present and so striking. And this is Baba's Jupti, where he went in silent, and went in speaking, and he came out silent. And the thing about if you see a snake, kill it. His last verbal message to us, which I now believe wasn't about physical snakes as it was then, but also about sociopaths, who are like human snakes. But Baba said, when you go out, his last verbal words, when you go out at night, carry a lantern, and if you see a snake, kill it. I will save you from any calamity but this. And sure enough, Baba goes in, someone finds a snake, and Padre is called and he kills it. And Baba comes out and says, what was it? What happened? And he said, Baba, someone found a snake. He said, were you carrying a lantern? Yes, Baba. Did you kill it? Yes, Baba. Baba said, good. I tell you, if you go out at night, carry a lantern, which to me now is very symbolic of awareness. Carry a lantern of his awareness. And if you see a snake, kill it. I will save you from any calamity but this. And I'm puzzled. How is it he's saying? Baba says, call on me for anything, anywhere, anytime. But I will save you from any calamity, like from this. And to this, I now believe is when you're dealing with a sociopath, you must not literally, physically kill the person, but you must really be aware of what you're dealing with and act in accordingly. Don't think this is someone who's going to be nice, like in the song "The Snake," who will ever be nice. And the other, just last thing with Padre was taking us to the table cabin. He says, this is where Baba wrote the book that he said would be his Bible to the world. And then he turns to one of us and says, do you know where the book is? And that person went, do you know where the book is? And someone else, I don't know. He said, well, I don't know where the book is either. So don't ask me. And of course, and the other thing would be meeting Muhammad. Meeting Muhammad. We had put on shows for Baba, and originally it was just each of us offering our gifts, but we worked together and we did this musical play called Goodbye Maya, Hello God. And it ended with everyone singing, we're singing Goodbye Maya, Hello God, Goodbye Maya, Hello God, and like repeated. And we're around Muhammad singing this, and I'm watching, there's a fly on his ear. And while we're singing, I'm just preoccupied with, he maybe does twitches a little bit, but it's like he doesn't even, fly's not bothering him. And as we got to Goodbye, and he's about 6 feet away from me. And as we got to Goodbye, Maya, Hello God, the fly went straight from Muhammad's ear right down my throat. And it was impossible not to get that this was prasad. It wasn't gross. It was, all right. I guess that's a lot. Thank you. I didn't think I had anything to share, but I did witness, I heard about what happened to this fella, Dan. And yeah, if I had witnessed that, it would have changed things. But then I wouldn't have been able to write the story that I just published. So
You mean
You caught a home run fly.
I caught a home run fly, center field.
You were talking about Anna Rosa attacking this. Is that what you were talking about that Tina told about that story?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did not witness that. I knew something was going on, but I was in Baba's lap. Baba was everywhere, in every breath, in every breeze, in every. I was not. If I had been aware of what was going on there, I'm sure that would have been a major challenge for me. I might have pulled away or seen her for what she was. Talk about sociopaths, seen her for what she was, but I didn't. But because I didn't, I have this amazing story, which, like I said, which I just published on Amazon, and I'm preparing the Kindle.
I can't wait to read it, Tony.
Search for my name, spell it correctly. The name of it is Playing with Fire. But if you search for Playing with Fire, based on Baba, is Fire. But if you search for Playing with Fire, you'll find 7,000 books, and you won't see mine. It's a popular title. But if you search for Tony Paternity, you'll see 2 books. That one.
Where am I searching? On Amazon?
On Amazon.
Okay.
And around the world, I'm working real hard to get this to format a Kindle version. Hopefully in the next couple of days, I'll upload it. Mm-hmm. But if I had left then, I wouldn't have this wonderful story. I don't mention Anna Rosa by name, but I have a character with a very similar name who had similar role to play. But it's definitely not what the story is about, but it plays a part, an important part.
Yeah.
Thanks,
I
Connie.
look forward to reading it.
And it's in verse, most of it.
Oh.
Simple, clear verse lines, not like complicated poetry, so that it's easy to read and easy to see while you're reading it.
We may come back around, Tony. We'll see how we have quite a bit of time.
I'm finished. I'm sorry. I took so much. I got carried away.
Great stories, thank you. And now Diana.
Jay Baba to you all. These are wonderful personal stories. I'm not telling a personal story, but I'd like to give a few sort of verbal snapshots of Meherabad Hill from the 70s. And I'm picking up on Viola, you mentioned Baba's fragrance, and Tony, you're sharing your insect story. So I've got fragrance and insects for you. First thing is a memory that I think all of us who have been there in the 70s would remember, is that when we were in the Samadhi, and I think this was before Arti would begin, we would prepare the marble by covering it with a cloth and putting down these weights to keep the cloth in place, and then passing a little bottle of eau de cologne, and from one person to the next, and we would give a little spritz to the cloth on the Samadhi. And I don't know how many years this went on. I know this was not something that was continued for a long period of time, but it was a sweet little activity that was part of the history of the tomb. And of course, there would always be this lovely floral fragrance in there after we had done that. I also am remembering going to the Gaudi, and I guess the Gaudi in the tin shed, which now from photos I've seen has a little fence around it, but in the olden days, there was no fence. Mara, when she visited the hill, would come over there, I think, after being in the Samadhi, and garland Baba's photo, which was hanging above the Gaudi at the head, and also the photo on the pillow there. And then she would go away. And if you were on the hill that day or any day, you could go and just sit by the Gaudi and take your own darshan there. And this was also a place where the dogs like to nap. And so if you were to go near the Gaudi and place your head on it, you would have a really good whiff of her dogs. And maybe the occasional flea.
Diana, I'm just a little confused. I had always thought that the bed in the tin shed was a stretcher, the stretcher that was used to carry Baba.
No, that's in Baba's room, next to the stretcher that carried Baba's, if I'm correct, the stretcher that carried Baba's body was in the building right next to the Samadhi.
Right.
The cabin, the tin cabin.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And you are talking about the Gaudi then, which was
I'm talking about the Gaudi under the tin shed.
Okay. Okay.
And then also in those days, if I remember correctly, we could rest in one of the rooms down from Mansari's room. And like if you were facing Mansari's room, she had two rooms, but the room that we would visit her in, about 2 doors to the left of that at the end of the building, there was a room with 1 or 2 cots in it. And I have this memory of resting on those cots. And again, I would have been sharing that cot with the dogs, not at the same time, of course, but definitely with a whole host of fleas. So it was not so much fun to be there, but it's a clear memory. But the last and sweetest, of course, up on the hill is visiting with Mansari and her wonderful stories. And also, she would prepare something very sweet. And I learned later that it was made with sugar and rose petals that had been on roses that had been on Baba's tomb. And it was like a jam or jelly, a very thick jelly. And you would go up there, and I think this would be first thing in the morning, but my timing might be wrong. And she would take down her jam from maybe the windowsill and give you a large spoonful of it. And this is like, it's like pouring sugar down your throat. So it's all this sweet, a real jolt of energy. And it would be very sweet. And that's just a nice memory of course, the stories were the sweetest, but this was something that she gave us from herself. And those are some snapshots of Meherabad Hill. Jai Baba.
Oh, thanks, Diana. Well, I'll just see who's ready to share. How about Cheryl? Oh, yes, your hand's up, Cheryl. Good.
Yeah, I just did it. You know, Diana, I put my hand up. That is, I found out years later that you could have slept in those rooms that you were just talking about, but I never knew that, and now I'm so glad I didn't know, because I would not have wanted to deal with fleas. So thank you very much. And that room was still available. I don't know if it is now, but it was through the last time I was in India, which was, I guess, 2019. You could go and lie down there and rest as a pilgrim. And since then, I don't know, because I haven't been back, but I'm just really taken aback at what you just said. Oh, that, well, I guess I was being protected. I was thinking, I was so excited that Betty was doing this particular sharing meeting, and it had started in Oregon a couple of weeks ago at their Sahabas, and I just thought, oh my God, I wish I were there to hear, because I love the 70s, and it just have to, I want to, what I share now, I really hope I can impart to the people who weren't there in the 70s, just people already today have imparted the flavor, but just physically being there were so many fewer people than there are that go now. And I went at the end of 78, which I felt was pretty late. You know, some of the stories are from the early 70s, in which there were practically no Westerners. And it was, I could feel in my own being the difference of timing, and how the early years were quite a different chunk of time than by the time I came in 78. But one thing that was really, and I knew it for all eternity was so special, was that I had wanted to be there for Amartithi. So I got there on the first day of November, and I had planned to stay for 4 months at that first trip, which I did. So I was there for Amartithi, and there were a number of people that came. I have zero idea how many Indians came, but there were not that many Westerners. Maybe that point there may have been 40 or 50, 40, 45 of us there at the time. But I had heard stories of Erich and Adi staying up all night and walking around the hill and being near the Samadhi and telling stories. And so I tried my best to stay up all night. The one night I did was the night before the 31st. And I managed in staying up to get to the Samadhi just to be there in the middle of the night. I knew that the women Manjali would come also about 3 a.m. in the morning to lay flowers on the tomb the night before the 31st. So this is the night of the 30th. And I absolutely wanted to be there for that, which I was. But before they came, I got there about 2 a.m. in the morning, and there was almost no one around. The only people who were there at that moment were right on that mandap, right in front of the Samadhi, sitting on the floor. And this is what I want to share. There were a group of Indians, and they were singing bhajans. And there were 4 or 5 of us Westerners there. and looking around, and it just went on for hours, but it was because there was no one else who wanted to do anything. You know, we were just being there. Occasionally a person would go into the samadhi, and whenever they came out, they came out. But I just thought, this time will never happen again after this era. That there were maybe 40 of us in entirety on the samadhi, just sitting there and being with Baba in the middle of the night, with the bhajans being sung, total devotional praise, just that sense of emptiness from them. And they were just really, what they sang was totally devoted to the Lord. And it was incredible. And total silence around the rest of the hill. There were chai stations at the time during samadhi. There were little vendors, meaning single vendors around in different spots of the hill that were selling chai to us who were there. But that was way off in the distance. And then we heard that the women mandali are coming. So we all had to get up and move back. And just to see Mara come with I don't know if she was carrying something. I know very often in the next few times and years when I was there, Meru would carry things, Mani would carry flowers, baskets of flowers. When I say things, baskets of flowers. So I don't remember if that moment in time Mara was carrying a garland. She might have been, but when she stepped inside, she always bowed down, and the amount of, first at the threshold, and the amount of love that was in her being just at that first point of bowing down at the threshold was mind-blowing. Wiping it clean, kissing it multiple times, and then the threshold, and then stepping into the samadhi. And then she would be handed flowers, which each flower, she took an amazing amount of careful time to place exactly, perfectly. Kissing it first, putting it to her eyes, kissing it again, bringing it to her heart, and then putting the flower down. I could describe in more detail all of the amazing ceremony. To me, it was a ceremony of flowers, of the women mandali placing flowers on Baba Samadhi this night before Amartishi. That's basically right now what I want to share, because it was, I felt so privileged to be there when there were so few people. And I'm hoping that I've shared the essence of that for those people who hadn't been able to come yet. So Jai Baba.
Now I can't talk. That was beautiful, Cheryl. Oh my.
I'm, sometimes because I live near the center here in Myrtle Beach, and people come and they go, oh, you met the Mandali. Oh, you met, Padre. Oh, you got to meet Mara. Oh, you met Mani. And I just wish I could just give them part of what I experienced, because I did meet these people. Just give it to them. And I try in great detail to tell a story, a little vignette of what they were like, that I experienced, because it's so special. And those of us who, since we're talking about the 70s in particular right now, who were able to be there for whatever reason, karmically, I just feel beholden to the rest of the people who are coming to Baba to try and give them something of what it was like who was there. I mean, at that time, being there at that time.
Oh. Well, you've done it beautifully. Thank you. Take a moment. Thank you, Cheryl. How about Donna and Ken? Do you want to say something? Let's see. Sorry to put
Hi.
you. Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Sure, let me fix up the camera here. Somebody have said some beautiful things, of course. I have to turn off my background. Guess that'll work. I did have the blessing of getting to India in 1975, first time in July. And 2 or 3 really powerful experiences that I've shared in writing, and also there's a video that, in the collection of the Circle videos online. So people want those stories are there. But just talking about what it was like then in general. Yeah, I was just remembering the other day. So I arrived in July of 75, which was right when the emergency was happening in India because of Indira Gandhi declaring martial law. But I was kind of really unaware of it a little bit at going through customs, And of course, it was a very different India then than it became after the early 90s. You really were in another world in so many ways. It could take you a couple of days to make a phone call, to the States. Mail would take a few weeks. So one of my first impressions was, there was a nuclear reactor on the road going out of Mumbai, and there were also these like Neolithic stone huts people were living in. It was like it was an ancient country, and yet it was more like it was just the eternal now. Everything and anything was happening at once, all around you. Of course, there were a lot of people then, hundreds of millions, a billion, but a lot less than now. And of course, I managed to get a taxi, and he drove me right into the courtyard at the trust office, which seemed a little odd to me at the time for some reason. And Adi came out and sort of seemed a little upset. I think the taxi driver had overcharged me, of course, but he dropped me off and disappeared real quick. But he sent me over to the Dowlet, which is the hole in the wall for us poor people right across from the trust, more or less. And as Cheryl was saying, there's only a handful of people there then. This was July, so it wasn't the busier season necessarily. But it was blessed to be there for Silence Day, 50th anniversary, and had a really amazing experience in the Samadhi on Silence Day with Mara, who, unlike a lot of people, I just couldn't feel any connection to. I sort of felt like she was this queen about 1,000 miles beyond me, remember bicycling out to Meherabad, which was a bit of a ride, but you turn off of the main road there, and it was just a dirt road, and you'd have to go through the little ditch where the stream was running through. There wasn't even a bridge, before you even got down to the access road, and you could just spend all day with the mandali. It almost sort of took it for granted in a way. And you're reminding me, I remember when I first saw Mani, somehow it made Baba seem more real and physical. He was like the same blood. And my other fun story is, so then Dooney came along July 12th. And as I remember it, you could spend 4 days out at Meherabad in the little building there alongside the Japti. And so my attorney come and I was staying out at Meherabad. And I was a bit of a fanatic. So my Dooney stories, basically, I thought, well, I should just throw my mind in, because that's the main problem. I want realization. And my common sense said, well, maybe that's not necessarily a good idea. But I thought, well, hey, if I'm serious, so short version, I threw my mind in the Dooney, and shortly afterwards, I became deathly ill, and I could barely crawl to the toilet outside my door, and things were coming out of every orifice, let's just say, throwing up, et cetera, et cetera. There was a nurse there who thought I might die, and I remember thinking, I'm not that lucky to die at Meherabad. I'm not worried about that. But and then Padre comes along and he gives me some, homeopathic, which I guess increases the symptoms. So, and I'm a lucky person that basically never had a headache in my life, more or less, and I have this incredible headache where I can just barely keep from moaning and screaming, and it's going on for like a day and a half, it seems like. And I'm starting to hallucinate, like, is Padre some kind of witch doctor? And I'm in this, 1940s movie in East Asia, where I'm a prisoner of war or something. I don't know. It was just, and then finally I realized, oh wait, this is my mind burning up. So I had to, and then I sort of remembered that story of, the potter and the two pots. And Baba could burn your mind up, but you wouldn't be of much use after that, unless he does it the slow, painful way through a few lifetimes. So I said, okay, Baba, I guess I'm not ready. Okay, I get the message. I'll have my mind back. And within, it seemed like, I don't know, a few half hour or short time, the headache went away and I started getting better. So be careful what you wish for. But yeah, it was just, so quiet and peaceful. Then we bike out to Meherabad. We're staying in town, and you might pass a local bus or two, but otherwise it's bullock carts and bicycles, and that was about it. And, from the train station on, there was literally nothing, just fields. And so it was a very idyllic in that sense. And just some of the great people, Padre and Pendu, and all of those people that left by the early 80s. Somehow I missed, it's sort of a funny story, but maybe it was Baba's timing. So I had written that I was coming, and Baba's brother, Jal, in Pune, right? Yeah, so he sent a letter to my house, but I didn't get there with all this, please bring 6 of these locks and 10 of these pens and this kind of this and this and that. And I was still very much a newbie in many ways. And it's probably good I didn't get it, because it would have probably freaked me out. So when I came through Pune, I didn't know to look him up or where he was. So I never did meet him. By the time I went back in 82, I guess he had passed on. Or anyway, not too much else comes to mind at the moment, just that.
Oh, you've done your share for sure. What a story.
Thank you.
Ken, a question.
Yes.
Did you get the headache after he gave you the remedy?
I don't remember the details, but
Okay.
it just everything continued, just.
Because he was a bullseye homeopath, He was.
Well, I guess it did cure me in the end, but just.
But that's funny, associating him with a witch doctor. Oh.
I say I was pretty naive and had no clue in a way, what a blessing it was. I mean, I did write a letter home to my wife at the time. I still have the letter, and one thing I wrote was, it's, as people have mentioned, you just it was like instant family, like the best aunt or uncle you could ever have, or just so warm and welcoming and connecting, and and natural, just so natural.
Yeah.
that was the magic, you know. Anybody, theoretically, anybody, the whole world could have walked in, you know, and yet there we were, just a handful of people, because it was invisible in a sense, you know. The magic was invisible. If you weren't connected, if you didn't have that openness or Baba's blessing, it's like people say, well, what do you do there? You know, do you meditate, or do you, et cetera, et cetera. So it was special.
Jen Doan out here in Oregon describes it. She says, "You don't do a darn thing, but but by the end of the day, you haven't had time for your. There's still not enough time, and shoot, there's something else. You don't manage to accomplish it all. But oh well, sorry.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Ken.
Oh, thank you.
Let's see. Deborah, are you up for going now?
Yeah, I'm trying. There I am. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for these stories. What a treasure. Thank you, Betty, for calling this. And I'm so moved. Oh God, I don't want to be spotlighted. Can people just choose if they want to view me in gallery or, speaker? Thank you. I can't stand looking at myself.
Really? You're just maybe one of the crowd? I don't know. Okay. Okay.
So,
You look beautiful. You look beautiful.
oh,
I really mean that.
now I feel like I'm experiencing what you said about family with the Mandali, just the warmth, the warmth. Ooh, so I didn't go until something like 2005. It was the only time I've been. And I arrived at night in Mumbai, and it was so smoky, and the crowds of people. I'd been in India in 75, but, I wasn't, well, Baba had, already touched my life, but I didn't really get it. Of course, our lives are his. So it was smoky, dark, these crowds of people. And it turned out that there'd been a mistake the van that was to meet me thought I was coming the next night. And I was just at a loss. What do I do? So someone helped me there at the airport, and the van appeared and, drove overnight and arrived early in the morning. And they took me up the hill to the Samadhi right away. And I was raised Jewish, not Catholic, so there was no savior in my world. But Baba sent an Israeli woman to say, "Welcome home." And that just, and she, walked me to the Samadhi, and I got to feel the surrender of putting my head down. The weights were still in the corners of the cloth, but there was no perfume. And so I got to hang out for about 2 weeks. I went to Meherabad, and only Katie was there on her porch, holding court. And she was so grand, but so warm at the same time. And she knew many of the people by name and inquired after their particulars and was welcoming to the newcomers. I did get to stay and have lunch with Casey and Devana. And my bodywork teacher, Louise Barry, had spent a lot of time with Arnavaz in particular, I think. And so they knew her. And so there was some sweetness and warmth. And I didn't follow up with anyone afterwards, pilgrims, the warmth, like I hear about people who've been on the Camino, and the lifelong friendships, and that hasn't been my pattern. If I went to a Duni, that's certainly something I would throw in my propensity to disconnect. But I do have to say, it's just been wonderful to be here with you all today. Bob.
Deborah, what months were you there?
I think it was the late winter. I should go look. Somewhere I have evidence that I actually was there besides these stories I'm bringing to you.
Might have seen you there then.
You might try Baba Zoom, Deborah. It's just, you can jump in any day, almost any time.
Thank you.
Yeah, morning or night, always.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's kind of it's another Baba family, really.
We're related.
Yes, Viola.
I was needing a cousin, a sister, and there you are.
I should say I was also a student of Miss Krask's in ballet in New York. Were you?
My
No.
mother was.
Oh my. She used to call me Diana. Somehow Deborah didn't stick for her, but so I was almost given another name by Mandalay.
Well, we must in the chat exchange some info.
I will do that.
Woohoo! Yeah. If you put your email in, I have a couple of sweet little videos of Katie that you'd probably really enjoy.
I'll put my email then in the general chat.
Yeah. Okay.
Viola Wyatt, I have a question for you. What year you had shared what year you were there, but I missed it. Because I was thinking of something else at the time. What year were you there that you were describing?
It was in September of 77.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Is when I arrived for one day.
Yes.
And I left after Christmas. So.
Okay. Give her a day and she'll take a year.
Ain't the truth.
I want to say one other thing. I remembered the custom of waving goodbye till the person was out of sight. And, with my forgetting, leaving people behind, that is something that has stayed with me all these years. And I have taken that on. I don't know why, but it's just a sweetness, like we're still here, we're still connected. So.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, thank you, Deborah. Do we have others that want to share?
Can you print me? I want to show them waving goodbye.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Let me spotlight that, Rosalie.
Yeah.
Oh, golly.
There they are.
There they are.
Yeah.
Go here.
They look like they're flying.
Were they saying goodbye to you, Rosalie? Were you going?
Well, many times when I was there, but it's just such a beautiful thing.
Oh,
yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
take that picture? Did you take it?
No, no, I just happened to have it and I love it. I thought, that moment, like you say, Deborah, it's like precious, They're so heartfelt, They're just so heart open people. Just look at Mani, Goher, and Erich. Wow. Yeah.
Natural. Totally
Yeah.
the word for me.
So
100% natural.
yeah.
Loving.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Let's see. Mikal.
Yeah, so Deborah asked if I should share. Actually, I wanted to say, I had my hand up, but what I wanted to say is I remember all these stories of the older ones, of the first ones, the pioneers, the pioneers, that they spent all day in Meherabad. And they just stayed all day there with no restrictions of time and just being. Yeah, please also don't put me up alone like this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Better like this. Thank you.
We can hear you. You kind of come up anyway.
Yeah.
So I was wanting to hear about that, but as Deborah asked, and I was remembering some stories by Ken and Viola's Dooney stories, and I didn't know you were supposed to throw the Dooney stick with a certain hand. I know you're supposed to in India eat with a certain hand. A very how do you say, not good manners if you eat with your left hand, because your left hand is used for the toilet and your right hand is used for other things. So that's how the Hindus do. So that's why probably, but no one told me that I have to use a certain hand in Dooney. And wow, Ken, that was so brave. Wow. I think it was wonderful that you did that. I think that you, even though you took it back, I think Baba took you on it, and it's a good thing, I think. I heard someone, I don't know if I think she shared it already on Zoom, so I can share it. Angela said, Angela, why we are all here gathering, because she's the one who initiated the Zoom and did such a good work during Corona times, and still for us all. What a pleasure with Baba that he opened this tavern for us. So Angela said that the first Dooney she threw her whole self in it. She said she just threw everything, her whole self, and said, Baba, I want to serve you. So take all of me. And I think she's doing that since then. So so she threw her mind as well with everything. So I think it's a good thing.
Anything happen after that?
What?
Did anything happen in her life after that?
Well, we see it really.
Well, we do see it.
For one thing, we have Zoom, where she was very active in New York. She was very active with Baba's site of the accident, Oklahoma, and she has been in many, and she keeps on serving. So so I think it's working. My Dooney story is also nice. Well, actually, Deborah, I'm Israeli, so so but I'm not the one who took you to the Samadhi, no. So yes, I understand that for us Muslims and Jews, there is no form for God, no form. There's how do you call it? Prophets, but no saviors. And so it was also hard for me to take my time. I took my time understanding this. I mean, I didn't understand it. I felt that Baba was completely the highest soul that I ever met. And I really loved reading about saints and everything. I really felt very close to any religion, Muslim or Christian or any kind, or even the Hindu gods and goddesses and things. So, but Baba was, when I read about him, I understood that he was the furthest and the most that I could have contacted through books. And after about 3 years that he let me be like that, when people was just used to say in Meherabad, well, the Baba says he's God. And I used to say, okay, I have a relationship with God. They have a relationship with God. We're talking about the same, but they think that it's Baba. And so, okay, I didn't argue with them. And after 3 years, Baba told me, you trust me by now? And I said, yes, because Baba showed me throughout these 3 years that he can be completely trusted. And none of us, even the most trustworthy people that I met, and I had the good fortune to meet trustworthy persons, not many, quite a few. We always assume that we are this, but we're not completely that. And Baba has shown me each time that he is so trustworthy, that he is so what he says he is. So he says, well, now I'm saying that I'm God, so I want you to check that out. So I had no idea how to approach it. So I had no, in order to have some kind of information, you have to have a peg. So some things get on the peg and they get stuck in the mind, another thing goes there. That's why Baba repeats himself and God speaks. And that's being a kindergarten teacher. That's how you teach children. You teach them again and again the same story, the same songs, the same things. And that's how you teach them to read. And that's how you teach them math and everything. So it goes on the peg and goes another time on the peg and another time on the peg. It gets stuck, it's like some kind of culture thing. So I couldn't grasp it. I just couldn't grasp it. So though I knew that Baba was the greatest and my greatest love and everything. So then one day I was in Pune and Rama, in the Baba Center there, and Ramakrishnan was giving me this book of photos of Baba, and I was paging through them and looking through them. But this thing really bothered me. So I said, Ramakrishnan, I can't understand what avatar is. I can't. Can you help me in that? So he says, oh, you can't understand what you can't understand what avatar is? Every little child, the littlest child in India knows what an avatar is. And that's when it clicked. And I said, yeah, it's a cultural thing. It's a cultural thing. It's a thing that we grew up with, that our surroundings told us and has brought us to understand since childhood. So if I was born in India as a little child, I would have no problem with that. But I grew up as Jewish, and that's why I have a different conception. And someone has a different conception because growing up in a different culture. And that's when it was solved, and I understood that I understood nothing about God. All my conceptions about God. I said, yeah, I don't need to travel with them. And he's God, and that's it. And he's avatar, and it's all cultural, and I believe him completely. So yeah, so I came when it was, I got to know about Baba at the end of 87, and I immediately, after 3 months, I was in Meherabad. And I thought I was in the beginning of a journey to India to find a teacher I can live with and see how people live everyday life as a spiritual being. And once I got to Baba, I said, that I called you and you're going to stay here and you're going to come back here, and that's it. And so I never went to India. I always went to Baba. I traveled only once in India with a friend who was Kuchini, Israeli Kuchini, and she wanted to go to see her family in inheritance in ancestors' place. So I went with her, and Mansari told me, don't eat anything. She gave me permission to go. She said, don't eat anything. Just take bread or chapatis from Meherabad, and that's it. Don't eat out. So I didn't. She tried to to get me to restaurants. I said, I'll go with you to restaurants. You can eat. You didn't get that from Ansari, but I'm not going. I'm going to subsist on these pitas. I'm saying pita is the name of chapati in Hebrew, in Israel. So I don't want to carry this on, but I will tell about Duni. So when I came to Baba, I was hiding within big sacks of clothes, like pants, like overalls, big overalls. I had short hair because just before I came, I felt like shaving all my head, and I had long hair. And when I went to the barber, he said, we're not going to do that. So he just made it very short. And so that's how I looked, And then they invited me to do, to be in the Duni, to light the Duni as an Israeli, which was a very, very special thing for me. And I didn't know anything about the Duni, and they explained to me about the Duni and everything. So then a girl that I was living with in the room, she said, oh, you can't go like this. I'll give you a skirt and I'll give you. So that's how Baba started putting me in dresses and skirts and long hair, and getting out of the hiding behind the big sacks of pants and so overalls. So thank you. Thank you, Baba. Thank you, Dora.
Oh, Mikhail, you must have many stories. Deborah Mikhail comes to Arti every morning. Almost.
Yeah, almost, not every morning.
You may see.
Actually, it's afternoon here. It's not morning.
That's right.
And what time is that? Like Eastern or California?
Well, when it's 9 o'clock in the Zoom time, then it's 4 o'clock here, and now it's 8 o'clock p.m. And
Pacific time is 6 to 7, and then we hang out afterwards. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kind of early. Oh my goodness! What Tony has an offering. What do we? I'm not seeing it. Tony, let's have it.
Okay, unmute.
Yeah.
I ran down to get the words because there were too many in the song to remember. So I'll be glancing down here when I sing it. This was written shortly after Erich's passing, which kind of captured what I was feeling at that time. It's called Erich, Mani, and Mera. Sorry. Erich, Mani, and Mera. Erich, Mani, and Mera. Baba's own. Who in the world means more to me than the friends of my reality? Always present, though far away. So who can know what I feel today? My elder brother now departs, following Mani to Baba's heart. For your reunion I am pleased. Your aching heart is now released. I feel a poignancy inside arise after hearing these three goodbyes. But there in the tavern they all rejoice at the homecoming of God's own voice. Erich, Mani, and Mera. Erich, Mani, and Mera. Erich, Mani, and Mera. Baba's own. Seated there by Baba's feet, Elizabeth, Margaret, and Kitty meet. Along with Jane, they greet love's brother. How long he's waited, they tell one another. Now Jeff Milet sings the truest word. Surely this is the house of the Lord. The beloved smiles in huge delight and laughs out loud, that's right. There's great rejoicing in heaven tonight, for the silence is broken and all's gone right. The tavern door is swung open wide. The entire caravan's there inside. Heritage money and mirror. Heritage money and mirror. Heritage money and mirror. Baba's old. Heritage money and mirror. Mirror, Baba, mirror. Heritage money and mirror. Baba's own. Here comes Pender with his mischievous smile, while Padre swears in gallant style. Harry joins in singing Baba's prayer. Oh, look, there's Ani and Nadja there. The tavern keeper keeps on pouring. Is that Sarosh in the corner snoring? Too much to drink? Ah, look, surprised. There's Meherji with his love-dreaming eyes. They're in the corner, Roddy Jr. and John, while Wincoats photographs them all. Barucha holds forth, Bruce Hopkins swoons, and Bob Brown's melodies fill the room. Marriage, money, and mirror. Heritage money and mirror. Heritage money and mirror. Baba's own. So many there, can't name them all. There's sweet Bernice with the heart of gold. Fred Ella, John Bass, Anita Viard, Jimmy Mystery, and Nariman playing cards.
You got muted, Tony.
Pressed up against this. What?
You got muted. You got to unmute.
Oh.
Was it muted all along?
No. Thanks,
Okay.
Viola.
You weren't muted. I heard the whole thing.
Okay. So many there, can't name them all. There's sweet Bernice with the heart of gold. Fred Ella, John Bass, Anita Viard, Jimmy Mystery, and Nariman playing cards. Pressed up against this window fair, I see my loved ones all in there, while I'm remaining here outside. So now I know why Erich sighed. The new arrivals all are there. Mansari chats with Nana Care. Adi and Rhoda, Ronald walks them through, and Siddharji sings like he used to do. Meher Baba, Meher Baba, Meher Baba, God man. See the ships follow Galadriel as all the bright lights leave Rivendell. My Middle Earth will never be the same. My heart takes refuge in your holy name. Now watch the world be born anew. What you left behind, we'll see it through. The beginning's begun, what's a lover to do but sleep through the day for the night with you. You leave behind till the crack of dawn your faithful night watchman who carries on. Brother Bow remains, though the sky is rent, while Meru upholds the women's tent. For Alaba, Arnavas, Balnatu, our deepest thanks go her Katie too. When the last ship sails, we will see them go, by your grace to follow when our time is due. Heritage money and mirror. Heritage money and mirror. Heritage money and mirror. Baba's own. For now, like Garage, we have work to do, and must remain till it's done and through. On your love and guidance we shall depend, inspired by the memory of all these friends. Wish I could say these words with joy, but that would not be honest. My brother Erich, my beloved friend, may you bask in his presence till the very end. Erich, money and mirror. Erich, money and mirror. Erich, money and mirror. Baba's own. Rich money and Mera, Meher Baba Mera, rich money and Mera, Baba's own. Rich money and Mera, Meher Baba Mera, rich money and Mera, Baba's own. Jai Baba. Jai Baba. Ooh.
Wow.
Oh, Jai Baba.
Sorry about the interruption. It was my
Oh.
speaker that went out, and I thought it
Oh.
was you.
Oh, well, that's okay, because what I realized at that point, I really needed to shift the tone to from big to more intimate. So see, I might not have gotten that if not for that break.
Baba arranged.
Thank you. Baba arranged it. Yeah.
You know, folks, this obviously is just the part one. We have to do this again. There's a big cast of characters that didn't make it to this meeting. Oh my goodness, this has been wonderful.
If I may add one thing,
Yeah.
I had no intention of singing anything. I didn't think I even had anything to contribute. And I was sitting here just before I texted you, and it was clear that Baba was saying Erich Mani and Mera. And I'm saying, well, Baba, I have to run down. I'll have to get the words because it's a big thing here. All these. And so I ran down. He said, get the words. So I got the words. Baba, as you say, is planned all of it.
Good that you did, so fitting. Thank you.
He is the arrangement walla. The master arranger. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So stay tuned. Look at the calendar. We'll just get another Saturday morning for sure. Ooh, I think this is probably a great time to.
Yeah, and the thing is, Baba blew that out of the waters, 1970.
Right.
No.
Right. Yeah. It's a big subject.
I'm sure some people said, was I there? I mean, for me, it was just to be able to go. We're so lucky in the West. We went multiple times, and I didn't have multiple money, and I got there multiple times. It has to be grace. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. We'd spread our time in India, especially since things are changing over there. I guess you can't go into Baba's room now. You can't go on the porch now.
So Betty, tell your story, Betty. It's so sweet. It's so sweet.
Okay. I mean, I went there in '87 with my family, and my biggest story was, oh shoot, I was going to end this nice and tidy at 2 hours, but I'll take it a little longer. Was I didn't go to India early on because I came to Baba basically off of a hippie commune, living a very wild life, and I thought, okay, I have to be, and I got introduced through Sufis. I said, okay, I've got to straighten up. I've got to put on my pantyhose and get a job. And I had he was then 8-year-old son. Enough of this dissolute living, and so I did come to Baba at that time desperately after. With my life in tatters, kind of having had an abortion, which was about as extreme as I wanted to be, and so sorry, folks. This may be a little while. I thought I must straighten up my life. I can't, that so. that, and I had met Baba lovers by then. So, and Sufis. I lived in Palo Alto. I lived in California, where Sufism was. I didn't know any other Baba lovers who had met Baba except Sufis. So I thought, okay, I'll straighten up my life. And all around me were young Baba lovers who were going off to India. I thought, oh, I can't, that's not responsible. I've got to, support my family yeah, I just didn't see it as a responsible thing to do. And I was fine with Baba there and going to Baba meetings. And I thought, well, one day I'll be a Sufi. And went to classes but when it came right down to it, when it came right down to interviewing with Murshida, I was scared of committing myself, I guess, yeah. I just didn't, I don't know. I couldn't do it, I guess. I couldn't commit to that kind. I felt like I would blow it. And then what? So, um, so I didn't do that. But I had a great deal of love and respect for them. And uh, when that whole schism happened, when the Murshida died and Mackay came on, and it just tore me up. It felt like a family divorce. I just could not wrap my head around it. That this was a family. Yes, we had our troubles, but we were all a family, and it felt like, oh my, I had a terrible time with it for years. I couldn't, I couldn't, I just couldn't, I couldn't let it. It sort of ate it. So I figured when in '87 the Sufis were going to India big time. They all came in buses. I thought, that's when I'm going to go. I'm going to go and I'm going to see all this in action. I want to go see what, I want to be there when they're there. And and Baba gave me probably my most profound experience in his room. Casey knew that I had this dilemma of Sufism or not Sufism, and she said to me, Betty, Baba said that the picture of Baba at Arthur's seat. He said there's a straight where the two rivers there's a convergence of two rivers way down in the valley under Arthur's seat, and one is a very straight river, and the other is very windy. They meet up and they all go to God together, but one gets there faster. The straight one gets there faster. And Casey's implication was this is the straight way. It's direct to God. And I said, well, Casey, how do you know? How do you know what group goes? Is the straight group? And I don't think she could answer that. So anyway, but Baba took care of it. I went into Baba's room, and it happened that I was the only one there. And the minute I walked in the door, his presence was so strong. I just I went, oh. And so, of course, I went over and I bowed down at the pillow underneath his bed. And none of this, I don't know if it was a voice, it was, turn around, look out the windows, Baba said. And I thought, well, isn't that odd? You would turn away, you turn your back to Baba's bed and look out the window. But it was so strong, turn around. So I did. And then in walks Devana with a few people. She was giving a tour. And so I just kind of went to one side, and she said, this, Baba said, is his TV window. This is where he looked out at the world, and he saw the beautiful, the sheep grazing in the pasture there. And then she looked at the big picture of Baba at Arthur's seat, and she said, this is Arthur's Seat. And she proceeded to tell Baba at Arthur's Seat, and this is the story. The two rivers converge, and one is the straight. I said, oh, okay. And then she turned to the sign that said, befitting a fortunate slave. Hafiz is three couplets. I can't repeat it, but essentially, this is, these are his, this is befitting a fortunate slave. Rosalie would know it.
Carry out every command of the master without any questions of why or what. What you hear from the master, never say it is wrong. Because, my dear, the fault lies in your incapacity to understand him. I am the slave of the master who has released me from ignorance. Whatever my master does is of the highest benefit to all concerned.
Oh, thank you, Miguel.
What a story. Wow.
I was absolutely blown away. I just couldn't speak. I felt as if he didn't say, yes, they're not right. One is the right way. He didn't say that to me. He just said, it's not your concern. Don't worry about it. It's not mine. And it had relieved like years, literally, of sort of agonizing over this question. And so that was his answer. So grateful. I'm so sorry to hear that room.
No, this picture.
Yes, yeah.
I never heard about the rivers, but all I can say is he's welcoming all to him. No ism, great.
Right.
Yeah. So I wouldn't even the river. But anyway, Betty, tell your.
Oh, that's right.
I'm glad you told that. I never heard that.
No, I haven't.
No, that's an important story. Yeah.
Yeah. So my family, I went to Baba for the first, to India and Baba Meherabad in March of '87. That's when the Sufis were there with all the buses. And, that was March, stayed for 2 weeks, felt totally impelled to go, came back to my family and said, we all have to go. We all have to go. It's me and the kids, David and the kids. And David had an accident and had a settlement from a accident so that we could go. We would never have had that kind of money. So we all, me, David, and I, and 3 of the kids went, and then our 2 older ones went a little later. So we were all there, all together there, again in August of '87, same year. And that and David and I, we had planned to stay for 3 weeks, but David was a little newer to Baba than me, and was it kind of exacerbated some pretty difficulties between us, which at one point he said, go tell Bao I want a divorce. I said, great, I'll go tell him. So and Bao said, so what do you want? And I said, I would have loved to say, yes, I'm done. But I said, so I want what Baba wants. Of course, that was the right answer. So Bao spent the next, the time that we were there, putting us together, mummy and daddy, tractor mummy, putting us together, lots of loves. And he just, the message was so clear that it wasn't, that divorcing wasn't in the cards. And so that was, and Bao totally was, and manipulated that situation. And here we are. We're still together. It's good enough, is my counselor. Good enough.
Okay, so now Mara.
Okay, right, Mara. I was on the porch. Dave was not. The guys didn't get on the porch with 2 of the kids. 2. I know Sage must have been there. Anyway, the 2. And she was trying to understand who the family was, who was this. And so our little daughter, Shireen, 7, so she was old enough to go. And then she said, pointed to Gary, who was, we were blended families, put it that way. And Gary was not Dave's or mine. He was technically our foster child. But I thought that was difficult to explain. So I just said, oh, he's my stepson. And Mara looked at me and she said, you must never say it that way. She said, he's your son. And then she looked at Gary, who was kind of spacing out. And she said, so Gary, who's this? Pointing to me. He said, oh, that's my mom. And he wasn't aware of the drama. He just said, oh, that's my mom. And then she looked at me. Okay, got that. And Gary has turned out to be most wonderful. Yeah, boy.
And all the people hugging you at the end. We want to hear the whole story. Yeah.
So yeah, that was our story.
Betty, I want to just jump in to tell you that I've heard you tell that last part of the story before. And I have always, when Zeke and I got married, I had my daughter Clara, and she had her daughter Elena, who was 3 years younger than Clara. And I guess in deference to her biological father, who still had at least some child support connection with her, I would always refer to her as my stepdaughter. And I've always continued doing that. And it always felt awkward. And then I heard your story. And now I just say my daughter. And it's actually, my stepdaughter is more of my daughter now than my actual daughter, who's going through stuff. And I don't know where she's going to come out. If anyone has prayers for my daughter, Clara, Meherabad, Paternity, please send them, because I got nothing to do with it, But yeah, Elena is my daughter. Clara is my daughter, and Elena is my daughter. Thanks to your story.
I think Baba blesses us with these.
Look at your story. But please tell that when you were going away from Meherabad, what they all did.
Oh yeah, it was wonderful. Yeah, well, I feel like I need to say it wasn't always so. I didn't with Mara. I know. I'll tell just a little story before that. My kids, we were there for 6 weeks. We stayed an extra 3 weeks because our marriage was in such shambles that we needed to stay longer. Dave went and extended the tickets. So anyway, by 6 weeks we were ready, and they were getting pretty bored, Gary and Shireen. Gary would say, I want to bow down to a Big Mac. That's what he'd say. And it was the day of the women being at the, coming to the samadhi. Let's see, how did it go? Shireen had buddied up to Margaret Bowling, Goosey's daughter, but my kids did not want to go to samadhi. They grumbled and griped, and so I said, oh, all right, I gave in. I shouldn't have, but anyway, so so I let them just hang out by the frog pond where they like to be. So we get up there, and the ladies by then had given each girl a. Not sure about that. Anyway, Goosey's daughter Margaret was sort of standing on one side of the samadhi, and I think that my memory is that really that Shireen should have been there on the other side. That the ladies saw them as kind of a pair, and so basically it was the kids didn't go to that arti. And I realized that was a mistake. And Mara, in fact, asked me later. She said, so where was Shireen? And she sort of saved me from saying, oh well. She said, oh, she probably was having a bath. Not a good time for her bath. That wasn't what was going on. But I really felt she sort of smoothed it out for me. So my point is that it's always been I'm softer than I should be as a mom. And um, in that incident, I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but that was just, it was one of one of the hard times there that I and I remember being so distraught about it at one point that it just my inability to be kind of tough when I needed to be tough. That we were at the trust compound and I was just weeping, and I turned around and ran to who I thought I couldn't even see straight. I ran to who I thought was Val, and it was Erich. And he gave me a big hug. He didn't understand what was going on, but so I guess I feel like I need to present a whole picture of other than that sweet time. Yeah, I had some hard times too, don't we all? But yeah, let's see. The goodbye. Yeah, when it came time finally for us to leave, Babe and I and 3 kids, we were just we had a car. It was parked in the folks were in Mondley Hall. It was a Meherabad day. We were at Meherabad saying goodbye to everybody, and I just peeked in the door. At Monty was talking. The meeting was going on at Mondley Hall the way it did, and I just wanted to kind of wave goodbye, and I did. So Monty turns around. She said, "Oh," she said. So she got up and wanted, to say goodbye. And then everybody got up. Everybody came out a month. The ball. I do have photos, and I have to find ball. Everybody came out of Mondeleon. They all waved goodbye. It was just a beautiful, good. Yeah, it was a lot of that until until the car disappeared. Yeah, yeah. And I do have photos that I remiss. I need to find that. Yes. So that's exactly what it was. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Betsy. Yeah, full story and beautiful from the heart. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for, listen, well, I have gone on. Okay. Now, what do you think? Are we ready? Deborah, I'll send you those videos. Yeah.
Oh, Betty, that thing I shared at first that Narina said, I just think it's fair saying because we, his Eastern and Western disciples or Baba lovers, those who have lived for him for many years and those who have surrendered the same life to him only a few years, all join as one devoted pack of soul hounds to serve his work. It's not, it's you come when you come. He calls you when that's it. Ow.
Where's Ralph's and the dogs?
Soul deers, not soul hounds. Soul deers.
I like soul hounds. I like soul hounds. I like the dogs.
Okay. So hounds and deer.
Rosalie, who was that quote from?
Something Narina said
Wow.
in the Mayor Baba journals. That particular one was called God Has to Be Manifested. It's so wonderful. And at the end, she lets you know when it's Baba. She puts quotes when it is Baba. And that was from her but she was so close to Baba that it was just, but that's the one where she said, see me in the simple ways of life, the everyday ritual of selfless harmony. The unsatisfied element in you is God, who needs you to be like him. Unsatisfied humor is God, when winning in you the dual show of I am the motive making I, to lift in I the truth. And this is all Baba that I'm saying now. God is monotheistic realization, reaction in I. I am one in all. See me give in you the real order to resign in self-importance. I am in you the truth, creating you dual in humble rays of I. Lift in the I, that is me. And then in a little while he says, love this game in I. See me in it. Pure joy.
Joy.
Pure joy. Yeah.
Thank you, Betty. Thank you, Baba. That was so beautiful.
That's a wrap. That's a wrap. We'll watch for your calendars. We'll do this again for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, Avatar, man.
Welcome, Deborah. Welcome,
DJ.
Deborah. Yeah.
Avatar, Meherabad, DJ. Avatar, Meherabad, DJ.
Okay.
Hey, I'd say Baba gave you a few trips, Deborah.
All right.
Bye, everyone.